Welcome to episode 3 of Graham's Journey. Firstly, I want to apologise for such a long wait from episode 2. In fact, it's been over 2 months. I had a minor stroke on the 11th of April, which was discussed in episode 2. I did that episode 2 video on the 27th of April, which is about 2 weeks after my stroke, and it's now the 18th of June 2023, which is over 2 months since I've had my stroke. And I'd like you to know that my hand has fully recovered. I can do all sorts of amazing things with my left hand, which is pretty good. So I feel like I've fully recovered from my stroke. For more details of my stroke, please watch episode 2. The reason for the delay is a few reasons. One of them is a learning process. I had great difficulty writing that disclaimer that you've just read at the beginning of this video. The reason for that is software issues. Nothing to do with legal issues. I'd written that disclaimer myself. But I was using a free video editing program from Microsoft called Clipchamp, and I used it because it was free. And whenever I tried to type in that disclaimer, about halfway through what I was typing, it suddenly would not let me type anymore. So I originally thought it was something I was doing wrong, and I spent probably at least a couple of days trying to figure out what on earth it was that I was doing wrong. Tried all sorts of different things. And finally I decided that maybe it was because it was a free version, it wouldn't let me do a full text box like I wanted. So I went and had a look at another video editing program called Wondershare Filmora. By the way, I've not got any affiliate with this program, so I'm not making any money from mentioning them. It's just my experience. So I tried this other editing program, and I had no problem at all writing that full disclaimer and putting it at the beginning of my video. So that's one reason for the delay. Incidentally, I don't mind if a program restricts you as to what you can do and can't do. It's their right. If they're offering you a free version, they can say what you can and can't do. But it did annoy me that the Microsoft free version restricted me from being able to type a whole page of text without telling me that the reason why I couldn't do the whole page was because it was the free version. If they'd said that, I wouldn't have wasted a couple of days trying to figure out what I was doing wrong and trying to do research and asking questions from Google on how to do a full page of text on their video editing program. So that's my grouch about Microsoft. I don't have that problem at all with the new program that I'm now trying. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Another reason is that for quite some time the city of Auckland, where I live, has had a lot of wet weather, in fact a lot of floods, and we recently had some fine weather, so I had a lot of outside type jobs that I wanted to get done, so I spent my time doing that rather than sitting inside doing video editing. And incidentally, it's raining today, so this is a good day to do this. First of all, I'd like to discuss the disclaimer. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to give any advice. I have no specialty training in anything. I have no degrees. I'm not a professor. I'm basically a nobody, but this is just my experience of what's been happening, and any stuff that I try to say is mostly based on what I've seen in other people's videos. So that's that. With all of that out of the way, let's get on with the topic at hand, which is, did my carnivore diet cause my stroke? Well, am I on a kind of carnivore diet? Well, yes, I have been trying to be on a carnivore diet, but for me, I'm finding it extremely difficult. You see, I'm a confirmed carboholic. I can resist absolutely anything except temptation. So whenever my lovely neighbour twice daily invites me over for a coffee and biscuits, I can't resist. Every day I tell her that these are the last biscuits I am ever going to eat, and she just laughs. But she does limit me to only 3 biscuits, so that does help. Because if I had a packet of biscuits in my house, I would eat the whole lot. However, I am eating mostly just meat and drinking coffee with cream, with some exceptions. One of those exceptions was just before I had my stroke. Before I get onto that, I should mention that at the age of 49, I had heart failure, not a heart attack. I was very confused by this because the doctors kept saying I had heart failure. And I thought, what's the difference between that and a heart attack? And a heart attack is basically when you have a sudden pain in your heart and you fall down almost dead. That's a heart attack. Heart failure is just when your heart is struggling to do what it needs to do, and you're having difficulty walking up hills or going up steps. You're out of breath, but you don't have all of those pains that heart attack victims talk about. So that's what I was having. So I had that at the age of 49, and I had 6 stents placed into my arteries. And then about 13 or 14 years later, at the age of 63, I had the same thing happen again, and I had to have a triple bypass. So I'm now on lots of blood pressure medication. I've also been diagnosed as having diabetes, so I'm also on lots of blood sugar medication as well. So I'll just pause there for a second. Okay, a few days before getting my stroke, I went to visit a friend who was in hospital due to an infected knee. And I decided to buy him a box of chocolates on the way to the hospital. I just decided to interject there with a point I want to make about the chocolates. And I'm also practicing with my new software video editing program on how to edit. So I've made sure that my background is fairly blank, and I've got my head etc in the same position, so you will not be able to tell that I'm editing unless I actually tell you. So back to the subject of the chocolates. Yes, I did buy a box of chocolates, but when I went through the checkout, I discovered that the chocolates were dark chocolates. So why am I making an issue about dark chocolates? Well, I've learned, just trying to get my camera in the right position, I've learned that although most people believe that dark chocolate is more healthy than ordinary chocolate, that's not the case. Dark chocolate has got much more oxalates in it, which is a toxin, and the less oxalates you have, the better. In fact, if I buy chocolates for myself, I try to get milk chocolate because that's got virtually no oxalates in it. So it's much more healthy for you. Who would have thought? I've always been trying to buy dark chocolate to be healthy. Now I'm buying white chocolate. Oh, wait, I shouldn't be buying chocolate at all, because on the carnivore diet you're not allowed any plant food, especially plant food with sugar in it. So I shouldn't be buying chocolate at all, which I'm not. But I bought chocolates for my friend, so that he could, be in hospital and give out people chocolates when their friends come to visit. But as you'll find out, that didn't work out. So this is my first edit, and any future edits, of course, I'm going to do some more rather than just add on another video at the end to correct all the mistakes I've made during my first video, my original. So you won't be able to tell that I'm editing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so back to the original video. Thanks. Unfortunately, once I got to the hospital, incidentally, I did ring up and ask if I could visit him in the hospital and where he was in the hospital, and nobody said anything. I was quite welcome to come. But when I got there, I discovered that I was not allowed to see him, because he had tested positive for COVID and was in isolation, which was very annoying, because then I had to return home during peak hour traffic, which was really annoying, and I had to take the box of chocolates home with me. Well, that was a disaster, because a box of chocolates in the house for me is irresistible. I did try just having one, but then after that one, I needed another one, and then another one, and of course I ate the whole box of chocolates, and that really spiked my blood sugar levels. Well, a couple of days later, my friend was cleared of COVID and his knee was healed, and he was sent home. As he was cleared of COVID, I thought it would be quite safe to go and visit him, without any chocolates, of course. Well, I was wrong. It was not safe. I also caught COVID from him. At about the same time, I decided to quit drinking coffee. I might go into an explanation of why at a later date. No, wait, I'll give the explanation about coffee right now. Most carnivores that I've watched videos of are quite happy to drink coffee, because why do they drink coffee? Probably because they don't want to give it up, like I don't want to give up coffee. But coffee is actually a plant, but coffee doesn't have any sugar in it, unless of course you put milk or cream in it. Then of course it has sugar in it. But another good thing about coffee is that it doesn't have any oxalates in it, which I discussed just before about dark chocolate. Whereas tea does have quite high levels of oxalates, which is a toxin which is bad for you. But over the years, there's been a continual controversy over whether or not coffee is bad for you. And for many years, I always heard from the health experts that coffee was very bad for you, makes your blood, thickens your blood, and causes, it's got hundreds of bad chemicals in it. And then recently, they started to say, well, actually, they've discovered through various studies that people who drink at least 6 cups of coffee a day don't get diabetes. Well, I drink way more than 6 cups of coffee a day. In fact, every coffee I have, from the very first one in the morning, and I only drink instant coffee most of the time, and I put in 1.5 teaspoons of coffee in each cup. And sometimes when I'm getting really bad, really addicted to coffee, I've gone up to 2 teaspoons of strong coffee in each cup. And usually about that stage I start to think I'm drinking too much coffee, and I try to quit coffee, which I've just recently done again. But even though statistically, it's a hard word to say, statistically, they found that people with diabetes tend to do better when they drink coffee than ones who don't drink coffee, which is quite interesting. However, not that long ago, I had a terrible bout of gout. That's quite poetic, isn't it? A terrible bout of gout, and the doctor gave me prednisone to help get rid of the pain of gout. Now, prednisone is a steroid, so it stimulates your adrenal system, and that's what stops the inflammation, which stops the pain of gout. However, while I was taking that prednisone, I was still on my carnivore diet, and I was eating 0 carbs. Oh, I should do that with my left hand. 0 carbs. See, my stroke is fully recovered. So I should not have had any rise in blood sugar levels. However, I continued to take my blood sugar testing just to see where I was, and when I was taking the prednisone, my sugar levels just hit the roof, shot right up, and I wasn't eating any carbs, I wasn't eating any sugar. I might have been having milk or cream in my coffee, but that would be the only intake of sugar that I was having at the time. And I thought, wow, I better get off this prednisone as soon as possible to keep my sugar levels down. And I never discussed that with the doctor, but I did get off the prednisone as quickly as I could. The gout recovered, and that's another story which I've got to put into my Graham's journey, which I've still got to go back to the beginning. So I haven't really started Graham's journey yet. This is all the end of Graham's journey. So, like some of those movies that go backwards and forwards in time, my YouTube channel is starting at the end instead of the beginning. But I do want to go back to the beginning. In fact, I managed to find a book about the beginnings of the Nielsen family, and that's it there. I don't know if it will come out the right way around when I play back, but it's called 100 Years of the Nielsen Family Centennial, and that book came out in 1965, so it's a bit old now. But I will be discussing that in a future video. So as for coffee, I've decided to again give up coffee, because if prednisone stimulates your adrenal system and puts your blood sugar levels up, well, coffee, the caffeine in it, also stimulates your adrenal system, I believe, by watching other videos. And if that's increasing the adrenal system in my body through caffeine, then that is also going to stimulate or raise my blood sugar levels. Now, apparently what happens when you have coffee, it stimulates your adrenal system, and the adrenal system must communicate that with the brain, and the brain says, okay, if the adrenal system's pumping, then you must need an increase in sugar, because the adrenal system is for, the flight or fight. So you're going to need extra energy. So the brain sends a message to the liver to increase the production of sugar, because the liver can actually make sugar on its own. You don't have to eat sugar to increase your sugar levels. The liver can do it itself. In fact, the liver can make sugar out of steak. If you just eat steak and nothing but steak, the liver, if you need sugar, the liver can convert that steak into glucose, which will give you increased energy for the fight or flight situation. So, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor, remember, I'm not giving advice, it's just my experience and my understanding. and from watching other videos all over the internet, that caffeine will actually increase your sugar levels. And of course, if your sugar levels are increased, the next thing that happens is you have too much sugar in your bloodstream, and somehow or other the brain detects that you've got too much sugar, and it'll send a message to your pancreas to produce more insulin to keep the sugar level down. So then all of a sudden you've got another chain reaction, and your pancreas starts pumping out insulin to remove the sugar from your bloodstream. Which, of course, in the long term, all of these things take a long time to happen. In the long term, you're going to get insulin resistance, which is the latest thing on YouTube channels. Insulin resistance, which causes you to become obese. And I don't know if I qualify as being obese, but I'm definitely overweight because I've got a great big tummy. In fact, in a future video, I might even show you some pictures of my big tummy, which is totally embarrassing. But my body structure is sort of like I've got a big tummy and little skinny arms and legs. So if you just picture an onion with little arms and legs and a little head, that's what I look like. But I'm not quite ready to show you all that just yet. So let's carry on with the original thought of my original video. Thanks very much. Bye. Before I get back to the main topic, I'd just like to mention that coffee, another plus for coffee, is that it is also a vasodilator. So it actually helps keep your arteries, etc., open so that you have a good flow of blood. So it is possible that my giving up coffee at that particular moment may have restricted my blood flow and caused the clot in my brain, on the right hand side, sorry, in my brain. Another plus for coffee, in a funny kind of way, is it is also a diuretic, which helps to reduce water retention, which can put your blood pressure up. In fact, not long after I had my triple bypass, I was on my way to the doctor, and I had to cross the road, cross a pedestrian to get to the doctor. And whilst crossing the pedestrian crossing with a car waiting for me, I nearly fainted on the crossing. And of course, as soon as I got into the doctor and got to see the doctor, I told him about that. And he says, "Oh, we might have your diuretics up too high." So he took me off the diuretic pills that I was taking, which is good because diuretic pills make you go pee all the time, which is very annoying. Anyway, back to the main topic. Just in case you've lost track of where we're at, remember I've gone to visit my friend who had been in hospital with COVID, and I'd eaten a whole box of his dark chocolates that I bought for him, and I was now back home, and I had decided to give up drinking coffee. So that's where we're at in the story. So back to the main story. But I started feeling bad, which I blamed on withdrawal symptoms from not having my regular strong coffee. But the symptoms steadily got worse, and then eventually I got a sore throat, a cough, I started having breathing difficulties, etc., which is very similar to having heart failure, because when you have heart failure you also have quite severe breathing difficulties. And I had some random something tests. Random antigen tests. See, I've recovered from my stroke. I can remember some words. I tested myself, and it tested negative, so I thought, oh great, I haven't got COVID. But then I started worrying that maybe I had heart failure. But the next day, someone said I should test myself again, so I tested myself again. And sure enough, it came up as positive for COVID. So, where am I in my notes? I'm looking at my notes here. Oh, yes. On top of getting COVID and not drinking coffee and having a whole box of chocolates, I was also in the process, and had been for a week or so, trying to reduce some of my medications, because when I'm following the carnivore diet strictly, I feel extremely good, and my blood pressure goes down, and my blood sugar, of course, goes down because I'm not eating any carbs whatsoever. So I was also reducing some of my medications. In particular, the low-dose aspirin that I was taking every day. Instead of taking it every day, I was taking it every second day. And one of the other medications I reduced to just half a tablet each day instead of a whole tablet. But I didn't make any changes to my blood pressure medication. So after having this feeling terrible with COVID, about the third day I started feeling much better. I was able to breathe, the cough was going away. I still had the cough, but not as bad. And it was on about the third day of having COVID, that's when I got the stroke. All of a sudden my hand just was like that. I couldn't lift it up. I couldn't do anything like that. I couldn't touch my thumb. I couldn't pick anything up because my fingers wouldn't work. That was quite scary. So the question is, what caused it? What caused my stroke? Was it the carnivore diet? Was it the box of chocolates? Was it the reduction in medicine? Or was it COVID-19? In my report from the hospital, which I haven't got in front of me at the moment, it did say that they considered my stroke to be COVID-induced. Now, I've always been under the understanding that when you get COVID, you get it in the lungs, and your immune system reacts to the virus in your lungs and causes blood clots in your lungs, which causes you to have breathing problems. But the virus doesn't get out of your lungs and into your bloodstream and into your brain. So I don't really believe that my stroke was caused by COVID. But you might have a different opinion. I think possibly it was my diet, because whenever you diet fairly strictly, your body starts melting fat, and the fat has to go into the bloodstream before it can be exited by whatever the normal methods are. So, one other question you might have was, sorry, I have itchy eyes. Was my stroke caused by the COVID vaccination? Well, I can categorically state that it wasn't the vax. Why? Because I didn't take the vax. Why didn't I take it? Because I didn't want those spike proteins being injected into my bloodstream and causing blood clots anywhere and everywhere, which appears to have happened anyway in my brain, of the right side of my brain actually, because it's my left hand that failed, so that means it was the right side of my brain that had a blood clot. Alright, so it wasn't the vaccination because I'm not vaccinated. Interestingly, my friend was vaccinated, and he was the one that gave me COVID, and he hasn't had a stroke. So I'm going to pause it there and decide whether or not I want to do a more in-depth discussion of the whys and wherefores of why I had a stroke. So just pause there so that I can make more notes. Okay, thanks for listening so far. Okay, it's now the 27th of June, and I think I better wind up this video. It's already been going for 30 minutes, and it's possible that this video might get banned by YouTube because I've made the mistake of mentioning vaccinations, but I don't think I said anything bad about vaccinations. Well, maybe I did, but that's up to them. If they do ban me, I'll have to find a different provider. And just to conclude, is when I had my stroke and I went back to hospital, well, I went to hospital, not back to, I immediately went back to all my old ways. I drank coffee at the hospital. I ate all the hospital food that was given to me, so I did not stick to the carnivore diet. And of course I went back on all the drugs, plus an extra one, because the hospital doctors wanted to give me clopidogrel. I don't know if I said that correct. But anyway, that's another blood thinner drug. So I was taking aspirin and another blood thinning drug. So I was completely back to pre-carnivore days, basically. And as to what did cause my stroke, I still don't really know. It may have been the carnivore diet. It may have been the fact that I gave up coffee. It may have been the those oxalates that were in the dark chocolate. Or it could have been COVID, maybe the blood clots that formed in my lungs and gave me breathing problems. Maybe somehow one of those blood clots got into my bloodstream and ended up in my brain. I really don't know. So I'm quite open to people making comments, which brings me to one other little subject before I close. I would really like some of you to subscribe and like my videos, because that helps the YouTube algorithm to spread through the YouTube internet, and maybe I will get enough subscribers and likes in order to be monetized, and I might actually make some money, which will help pay for my future travels, which will be season 2 of my Graham's journey, some real journeys. So I'll leave it at that for now. Really appreciate if you subscribe and like. It doesn't take much trouble if you just click on the subscribe button if you're on a laptop or phone, and if you're just watching it on TV, you can press the arrow up button and it will take you to all the different options that you can click on. So that would be very much appreciated, and hopefully you watch my next episode, which will be episode 4. Thanks very much. Bye.